So the question is, if Bitey falls into the water like this, where is he going to surface? Is he going to surface over here, or is he going to surface back here? Because what we could do is... yeah, I think we want to do kind of the same thing with that pivot. We need to actually move the pivot, which kind of sucks, but what we should do is go to his like normal like water idle, and we should figure out exactly how big that's supposed to be. Then we can go from there. Yeah, where's head went? Because what we're gonna do, right, is the pivot needs to be where the character actually is in the world. So if the character is moving forward and we move the pivot at the same time, then we can actually physically, if we're losing our velocity, we can mess with that and it'll actually look like the animation. Otherwise, we'd have to like stop the character's physical motion and like root him to a specific position and then snap the position over to somewhere else and stuff like that. And you can do it, it's just sucks to have to do. So let's take a look. I think we can get away with maybe keeping the pivot in the same spot. So it's important that it's at -6. And for this, can we get away with like the 1 and then the same as the crouch, so like a 1.5? Yeah, that looks like it could work. Cool, so for swimming we're just using the crouch box. Which is pretty much, you know, small Mario versus big Mario. So in the water you're small Mario. Which makes sense to me at least. Position at crouch, 0.92. Let's see, is Adam still awake, or is he's still working on stuff? Oh man, he's getting into those particles. Nice. Alright, so I think we've got all of our things. So the next thing to look at is the death animation. He just gives up. He's thrown himself on the ground like a 2-year-old. He's just like, I don't care anymore. Wah. So I think what we can do is we can just use that same. Just use the little crouch box, and that should work just fine. And it's not super important because you're not going to be moving around when you die like this, so we're just going to use the crouch box from the beginning. No big deal. So if you die, stuff will just... This is where things would... the only thing we have to worry about is things landing on you. In this case. So if a fat sack was crawling all over you, if you died, they'd be crawling right like that. Which... So maybe we should make it a little bit smaller. Like maybe a 0.5 or a 1.8. Yeah, so 0.8. And of course, he has no hitbox when he's dead, so we can just get rid of that whole thing there. How do we delete frames? Whoops. There we go. That looks fine. Fat sacks are actually carnivorous. Necrovorous, even. Oh no. Are we gonna have zombie fat sacks? Is that gonna be like a mini game? Bitey gets a shotgun and has to fend off the fat sack hordes while running away. So now that we've got all the basics, what we're going to do is go through every single animation from the start and rig them up. So get on your rigging boots. We're going to be here a while. So many side projects. That's also some of the problem with game development is you start getting some really crazy ideas, and halfway through a project you'll find something fun and you'll get distracted and be like, oh, we need to do that. And it's hard to stay on target sometimes. Let's take a look. We've got this air rising state, and I think in some of these I'm basically just want to tell Adam that, you know, keep it inside this box or something like that. Some of these are just like he's exaggerating some of the motion, and probably don't need all that, but we might. And if he pushes back on stuff, then that's totally his right. That's interesting. Like you can see, Bitey gets, you know, he gets another head taller when he's jumping here. Which you don't really want for collision, right? That's not what you want. So let's see. We should probably just deal with that now. We should probably figure out a little exactly what we want to happen with this. Because what I would expect is when you're jumping, like this pivot's going to change. We're going to want his head to stay in the same spot. So probably if we moved our box up to here, that moves us from, like if we're at -8 instead. So it's going to be Negative 11.6, or just 11.6 minus 8, so it should be 3.6 up, so we should be at, instead of negative 6, we should be at 2.4 in their pivot. So his head's going to stay in the same spot. See how it looks. Because we don't want to change your height when you jump. It's actually really important for us not to do that. Because if you jump, your height changes and you're trying to like jump into a little area, right? So if this is the ground, and the Spidey, like if he's this tall, and then if he jumps, he becomes taller, like maybe he can't fit into something that he totally should fit into, and you just like smack your head and can't do anything. So it's real important we keep his jumping height the exact same size or smaller. Well, not smaller. It needs to be the same size. Just if it's not, we're gonna have navigation problems with our character. So all of these need to be the same. So let's take a look at this pivot. If we can put it at the same spot as our yeah, it looks like he almost had it there to begin with, which is great. So he's got a good eye. I wish I could tab through these things, but I can't because Harmony doesn't let you tab through the actual like input fields. Because like if I hit tab, it actually just takes me to this, and the next tab is just gone. So I don't know what that's about. It looks like for all the falling stuff, we're just gonna have that 0, 2.4 south sort of thing going on. Yeah, he made him a lot taller. So you're saying you don't think it's... Hello, Paradox HG. Hello. How are you doing today? So Karen, you're saying that's not really a big problem? The changing height too much? Because his front end height would be the biggest thing? Yeah, I'm just waking up. It's 8 in the morning over here in the west coast of the United States, and I guess I'm actually on a semi-normal schedule. Yeah, I was thinking, Karakin, we'd have to change like our logic for entering like an area where we would try to like, if his motion is in this direction and his hitbox is so, we'd have to see, well, if he used his standing hitbox, would he be able to actually, you know, we'd have to like have more logic that would try to figure it out. So if we can keep the height the same size, we wouldn't have to use like a little forward probe of like, well, we'll sweep his smaller geometry through 5'11" in Denmark. Well, hello from the other side of the universe. We're almost completely on the other side of the world from each other. Because if we don't have to use a forward probe, then I'd rather not have to do that. So But you're right, we could deal with that character. We definitely could. And it wouldn't be impossible to do so. So the landing animation. So probably what we want for the landing animation is... do we want to move the pivot? Let's see if we can just keep it where it is and see if it works. Which programs are you using to develop? That's a good question. I'm using this right here is Toon Boom Harmony. It's what we're using to draw the actual characters. And we're also using it to rig them up so we can see the rigging on the character. And also, Unreal 4 is the engine we're working on right now. Doing per frame rigging of characters, like we got our fat sack dude here. I can pop his collision open. Doing per frame collision rigging is kind of a real pain in the butt. I can pop that open. And let's say we've got his idle animation, kind of how Paper 2D and the rest of this stuff works is in terms of flipbooks, and its basic collisions are really only good for if the collision doesn't change at all throughout the animation. And rigging up a per frame collision actually requires you to manually go through every single one of these sprites and like input the collision geometry yourself. Like you'd have to go draw the same box and do all sorts of crazy stuff all over the place. And it's just not feasible to do it for these objects in there. But things like obstacles, such as like one of our log sprites or something like that. The I keep opening the wrong one. Editing the collision in here for like something that's not animated or collision doesn't change in the animation, then bam, bam, bam. You know, you can just very quickly rig them up. So. And other than that, we're using C++ for all of our nuts and bolts code. So for things like creating our sweeps and stuff like that, we write all of the code ourselves. Thank you for following, Paradox. So we do all of our basic code inside of Unreal, and then we expose it to the editor. So let me see, what's a good example of this? Yeah, the editor's open, so open object.cpp. It's like we'll actually move our characters inside of here with like, are you flying or are you locomoting? Locomoting would be like running along the ground. Then we go to the editor and we're able to go make like a fat sack movement data object, and we can say, oh, fat sack's movement type is locomotion. And so we can go make our assets inside of the Unreal editor, and then it runs using our code to actually make our character do things. And this is we're real early in development. Like this was our first game asset here with the log that you can actually like walk into and has a back and a front and all that. So we're just doing some basics at the moment. We have not gotten super far. So yeah, that's what we're doing. This is our down animation, and this is the animation we're going to play when we're actually on the ground. So we're going to need our pivot to be where our character is normally, because that's going to be our position, because we don't want to actually change our position. And we definitely don't want our physics box changing, because we don't want to like get stuck somewhere. The issue would be if we're down and we stay down, would people be able to jump on top of us or not? Not sure. This is not a state that's supposed to be, you know, happening for long. So if some enemy enters Bitey's position there, how do we want it to interact with him? I think basically like if he's on the ground, maybe we should use a small hitbox. What would that look like? His crouch box is 1.5 tall. Yeah, we could use this small crouch box. So why don't we do that? So if he's down, at least, you know, like characters that jump on him or something aren't going to look too awful. And we're using kind of the standard boxes, so we should be able to write logic that can deal with all the different little things. So this is him falling in the air. So we're going to try our air rising positions for our pivots and the rest there. Let's see, this should be at 0 and then minus 2.4. And then this would be 1, 4.6. And the position would be negative 0.2 and negative 0.8. Or negative 8. And that's obviously just not good at all. So can we try our normal positions? This would be negative 11.6. Yeah, so we can use our normal positions, which is better actually. So I think that works. Interesting, he's got his pivot set just way up in the sky. So we use our normal pivot. Whoops, that's not right. And let's try starting him off at normal Bitey height. And then we'll go to his crouched Bitey height. And we should do it. He's already got the right frame already set up for me. It should be 1 times 1.5. .5 is not good. Do we have another height that's standard? Just 0.8. Well, what would be accurate for this? 2? 2.6 or 2.5? Would 3 work? No, 3's not good. 2.5, 2.6, 2.6. So the reason I'm doing a little bit more on the sit is if we actually have Bitey sit somewhere, I can totally see some other entity interacting with him, and you know, like a little bird lands on his head or something when he's not looking, right? You know, it's important that we have an accurate physics box, at least for his height on this one. So why don't we do that? So I think that'll be important. So I have another for sitting. Pivot is at -6. The position of the box is at -11.6, and the height of the box is 2.6. All right. And the reason we want to keep all these things as close to each other as we can is because whenever we change the size of these physics boxes in Unreal, we have to actually do physics code changes. Like, the physics engine has to remake the geometry and do stuff with that, and we don't want to have to do that. It's more efficient to not do a whole bunch of random stuff, so... Alright, let's rig them up like normal. And if anybody's got any questions, or they want me to share something different, like people have been known to ask to tell a story about something, since we're just kind of manually entering numbers, it's a little bit brainless. That's totally a possibility. So that looks good. This is just some looking about, so we don't have to. It should just be the same. Number 6. 2. 11.6. Also, if people aren't aware, it's Mother's Day this weekend. You should go give your mom a call, and if you haven't, she'll be very upset with you. Which has happened to my dad on many occasions. Like, my mom's birthday is before Mother's Day, and like, so what'll happen is people will forget her birthday and then like try to make it up to her on Mother's Day, and that just never works. She's like, this is bullshit. Alright, so board doesn't exist. Or maybe it does and I'm on the wrong frame. Why can't we see board? Is it just not here? I mean, I see a whole bunch of stuff here. I don't see any of it on the screen. Why is this disabled? Is there a way to enable it? Like, it's all red, and if I remember properly, that means like the layers are not hooked up or something. This is me not knowing Harmony very well. So yeah, it was just disabled. He's like, why do I have to deal with this? Alright, so we'll just rig him up like normal then. Why do I have to be in this boring game? I should be doing something else. I don't even get a laser gun. I just have to like run around. Fat sacks all laughing at me all the time. And there is a physics wreck there, I swear. It's just not showing up. But we got it positioned at least. And Adam was trying to make this one all complicated. I think I did this one because it was like trying to show Adam how to do some basic stuff. Like that's how you'd want to do like super complex motion. That's as granular as you'd want to get. So let's see. His hitbox at death and down is pretty small, so what we kind of want to do is I want to set his pivot at the normal pivot point, which it almost was exactly in the right spot. So we just want to take this thing, want to put it in the right spot to begin with. And we'll probably, yeah, I'll probably just tell Adam that he needs to move this animation back a little bit so we can control the motion in engine as opposed to in this animation package. Because you can totally imagine that, you know, an impact might need to change based on your in-game velocity and not necessarily just by what we've got going on inside of Harmony. So that's where he collides, and on, let's see, this frame, insert a stop motion keyframe, and just make this 0.8. Negative 11.6 south, yeah. That's why. 6. In this frame, we're gonna just do 0.8. Looks good to me. We've got that rigged up. Basically use his head. And this one looks like we've already rigged it. Do we do the same thing here? All these things look like they're in the right spots. No, they are not in the right spots. Not at all. So let's just go back to this one and double check. Yeah, that one all looks right. Okay, cool. Start with that pivot. Yes, that's one of the other things, is I'm not trying to be super tutorial master or something else. I'm just doing work today. So if it gets boring and stupid, then I'm sorry, but that's how work is sometimes. Boring and stupid. Everybody who has done anything knows that. So anything, it's not boring. It's not boring at all. No, it's the most engaging content of all time. Let's see. So what else is going on? Like, I should probably go see. I should probably like go outside sometime this weekend, right? I should probably not just live in my basement streaming on Twitch. There's a whole rest of the universe, isn't there? Something that's not on a computer. I mean, is it worth going outside? I mean, there's like bugs and stuff out there. My basement is actually free of bugs, which is really nice. And I don't have to mow the lawn. Yeah, outside, not worth it. Just don't go there. It's a silly place. So walk crouched. We got Bitey doing his little bitey things. So I got push here. Now this is probably also disabled. Is there a quick way to enable things? Where is the push? Bitey doing a force push. I don't see anything disabled. Yeah, here it is. Push is actually disabled here. I'm glad Adam's organized with all of his animation stuff. It's really handy. Yeah, look at that rigging. That is totally wrong. That's cool. We'll fix that. There are people. Yeah, people are gross. People are gross. We had that whole story about people not washing their hands at Amazon. I like how my mom is watching the stream, and instead of like replying in Twitch chat, she sent me a text message. That's nice. She's like, yes, it's a good day to go outside. Alright, well, then I'll have to go outside. You can mark several nodes via the lasso tool, so I can do like that, and then enable all of them or disable all of them. Good to know. I need to, get that into my head eventually. That there are things that I can do that are smarter, but that's a slow process. Teaching yourself, just because there's like new stuff every day. And it's nearly impossible to learn all of it. There's only so much you can do. Only so much that actually gets absorbed by you in a certain amount of time. I feel you there, yeah. And look at him, he's like, "Argh! Get out of my way, boulder. Argh!" He looks so exhausted and just angry. And he's just, so we'll do that. And this is him reclining. And then he gets up. All right, so I think we're gonna start with his. What is about this height? This is 1.8. Well, his 1.5 crouch box is pretty close, so we're gonna start with that crouch box. See how that goes. Yeah, there's a reason Adam's an animator. He's got some skills, and he obviously pays the bills with those skills. So he's got some stuff going on there. So let's see. If we're gonna do his crouch box, he's gonna need 9.2, 11.6. He's gonna need to be 1 and then 1.5. So we'll take a look at what that looks like. Yeah, it looks not bad. So the other thing that we might consider at some point is, if we really had to, we could make a separate movement box for Bitey himself, because player movement is just player movement. It's gonna be nuts. But I don't think we're going to have to do that, so we're not going to do that until we have to. It's just kind of one of those things with game development. You try not to implement a whole bunch of crap until you need it. And the reason for that is a lot of what you make in the game becomes the game. It's kind of one of those things where if you spend a whole bunch of time making some feature in the game, like let's say you spent 2 months making cloth physics for your game, at some point you're going to have to be done with the game. And if you've made this amazing cloth physics system, you're going to want to use it. So the game becomes all about cloth physics or something like that. That's just what happens. So if we spend all of our time doing something not super great, yeah, I think we're just going to use this normal physics box for this one, just because he's very quickly moving to his new physics box. We'll just set that to it. Do we set the pivot? Pivot's correct. This one is not correct. So if we spend forever just like making collision boxes for things, then we're really going to want to explore that in the game, right? So if we spent two-thirds of our development time just rigging up physics boxes and doing stuff like that, we'd need to slow down the game. We'd have Fat Sack crawling all over Bitey and like interactions like that. But that's not what this game needs to be about. This game needs to be about platforming and movements and Bitey doing super awesome stuff, and we need to tell the story of Bitey. We need to continue that. So if Adam's spending all of his time worrying about a physics box or something else, then we're never gonna get to that story. Be like, let me tell you a story about raycasting, and then you'll notice that nobody is watching anymore after that. That's one of the things that I'll hear people say, I want to make a game, and they're like, well, I kind of want somebody else to make the game, and I want to write the story. Things like that. Well, you were watching. I don't take you for granted. Thank you for watching Carrot Kid. I'm just being sarcastic as usual. A lot of people say, I don't really want to watch. I want to make a game, but I want other people to make it. I want to, I've got these great ideas. And the problem with games is really, a lot of the times it's not about having good ideas, it's about implementing them. And a lot of those good ideas are 12,000 lines of XML code or XML configs, for like an RPG that you have to make. Just reams and reams of stuff you have to do between implementing your great idea and not. Oh man, that's a good one. Just wham! And game studios are just full of people. So it's like a lot of people will they'll try their hand at becoming like an engineer or something. Yeah, he made a more or less simple card game. Card games are nothing to sneeze at either. Like games are difficult. They've got to be fun, people have to follow the rules, or at least, it's not like a movie or something where you can set the rules and play everything like you want. People actually have to understand turn order. Alright, so what is this? This is land. This is a landing animation. So we want to use probably his crouch box or something like that. Or we just want to use this normal size box. Why don't we just use the normal size box? And it doesn't look right here, but in one frame, basically, we don't want something to come in and change bitey landing, getting all screwed up. So this would definitely be a place where you'd want the hitbox to be smaller than the physics box and all that. But we're not doing that today. We're just making them the same size as we can. Because like when I went to programming school at DigiPen, it was a 4-year university they didn't have a game design degree at that point. They just had an animation degree. What is this? He like hits his head and then he like clutches his stomach. They didn't have a game design degree at that point, and a lot of people would go into DigiPen as an engineer, and then after, you know, like a year, they would be like, this whole engineering thing sucks. You're just writing a bunch of code, and it's a lot of damn work. And if you don't like programming, you're never going to start liking programming. It's not like it takes time to grow on you. It's one of those things that like either you like doing it or you just find it tedious as all hell. So a lot of people will be like, well, I got into this whole game creation thing because I wanted to make games. I didn't think it'd be this hard. And for a lot of those people, it's just like, well, then go to a different school. Like, it's a lot of work. Like, there's no magical fairy dust. You like playing games. You don't like making them. So trust me, don't poison your love of games by forcing yourself to make them. Alright, let's see. 4.6. This is his jumping animation. So he's going to be running along when he's doing this, so it's important not to change that physics box. Yeah. This is going to be super quick, and if we change the box, then we'll have a different movement set. So rising. Let's see. Well, this is interesting. So let's see if we can actually use his default pivot or if we have to move to his other pivot. Paying rent and food, yeah. Rent and food, how awful. Let's use his rising pivot. Where is that? His rising pivot is at negative 2.4. Let's take a look at that. I don't like that either. I think negative 6 might be closer. But let's just move the box and see if it... See if it works. It's not great, but I'm not sure this animation is also something we'll actually use. So let's see, this falling one, we'll try the... It's negative 2.4, isn't it? Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, is like, I really like programming, even just boring, tedious stuff. I find I get a lot of enjoyment out of. Let's see, it's negative 8 for this, would be normal. Yeah, so this definitely is the lower pivot. Because like I could spend all day just like writing a more efficient web server or file parsing and be perfectly content with it. It's fun. Solving problems. It's like some people really like math because it's like, oh, it's like a puzzle. And I just don't understand those people because I hate doing like mathematical problems and crap like that. I like actually solving. Yeah, so like screwing around entering these numbers really, I can just chill and do it for forever. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just making sure all the numbers are correct. It's just like, what is wrong with you? It's like, well, a lot of things, but this is correcting errors and bringing order to the universe, which I understand. And it's not necessarily that the process is super fun and interesting. It's more of like that delayed gratification of like, and now order has been brought from chaos. And yes, I understand the allegory of comparing all of Adam's work to chaos. Which brings us back to comparing, people should be at odds with each other if they're working on a game project. So this one's already done. Did we actually write down that the scale was 3 on the creep? For creep, the scale is 1.3. Yes, we did. Okay, good. So we got that set up. So crouched, these look like I've positioned them specifically. Yes, I have. Let's see, this one, Bitey is entering his crouch state. So this is a question actually, because he's going to be entering this crouch state. The question is, how responsive do we want this to be? Like, if you're running along, and then you're supposed to go into this slide, how much time are we going to actually take to transition from running to sliding? Because if that takes longer, that means that people have to anticipate going into a slide to avoid an obstacle. Or should we be more forgiving to be like, oh, well, you hit the down button, so actually, the hitbox and the physics box for the slide immediately apply, even though the animation hasn't finished. Everything is responsible as possible. Well, there's also instant response, like the art doesn't look right, but the physics lets you cheat. So it's like, oh, well, you were holding the down key, so we're going to instantly change your box to the smaller box, but it's going to take, Bitey, a quarter of a second to catch up to that. So what I think we're going to do is we're just going to enter this as normal, and but it's important to recognize that we may actually, this is where we can kind of cheat a little bit and have the art catch up if we need to make it look nicer, while allowing the gameplay to be like, you didn't get hit there, no problem. So we'll start with the regular box, and then we're actually going to very quickly transition to the smaller box, and we're going to use the crouch slide box, which is 1.5. So even though he hasn't made it there, we're going to be like, it's close enough, right? Like, he's gonna make it, so we'll be good. And then we can just move that keyframe there around and basically make it more or less responsive. Should be 1.5. Excellent. What is this? This is recovering from a crouch? Alright, so we'll start with our regular box. 1.6. When do we want? Maybe we can just... Now, one of the things we do want to actually give our fully standing height inside of this animation at some point. And the reason for that is because when we want to be able to call, can I play this animation? And when you do that, it's going to run through the frames of the animation you want to play, and it's going to see if you can play it. So if we are in code and you're basically saying like, can I uncrouch? If we have two animations we need to play, like we need to play the standing animation when we're done, but we also need to play the uncrouch animation. If the uncrouch animation contains the same basic bounding box as the standing animation, then maybe we can skip calling, can I stand? It'll be like, can I stand, and can I actually animate to standing, as opposed to just calling, can I start standing? So I'm kind of thinking about those sorts of things at the same time here. He's dead. So again, the pivot is going to get set into the air, and our death box height is 0.8. And this one will probably change. Like if we have Bitey just laying there dead while Fat Sack's play on his corpse, we'll probably have a little bit of different collision geometry for it. But we'll get there when we get there. We'll get to playing on Bitey's dead body when... Oh god, look at that. This is not dead, this is running dead. Okay, he has died and he's hit the ground while he's dead. So it's just him, scraping along the ground. That's rough. Adam's been abusing his characters, hasn't he? Yeah, this is going to be his die animation, and then he's going to go into that previous one. Jesus. Alright, so 0.92, 11.6, 1, and 4.6. So we're definitely going to go from our normal bounding box sizes to our new ones. There were some dust clouds as well. We're definitely going to have dust clouds and cool stuff like that. Like, Adam's super effects animator, man, so I'm very confident we're going to have some really cool effects going on later in the project. Like, he's been wanting to get started on that particle system stuff. Like, he's been asking me, when can I work on particles? Just like, just hold on, we'll get there. Bam. Actually, that's an exaggeration. He's picking stuff up. Yeah, this is gonna be... They're gonna be playing GIFs of this game's collision on our gaming with like, oh man, check out these collision boxes. And, Bitey will pick something up and then like, an enemy will fly over his head and not hit him.